Okay guys, so one of my products has been out of stock for pretty much the entirety of August, and it's just arrived back in stock, so I'm carrying out a kind of mini relaunch at the moment. But I thought I'd do this video to explain what steps kind of I take when I'm about to go out of stock, because it's a question I get sent quite often. Should they close a listing manually? Should they let Amazon close the listing? You know, should you increase your price? And there's some other steps you can take as well. So I thought I'd put together this video to show you what I do, and hopefully it will help you when, fingers crossed, you get to the stage where your product is going out of stock and it's been a raving success for you. So if you're running out of stock, what should you do? Should you close your listing manually, or should you sell out and let Amazon close your listing for you? Not many people talk about this. If you actually sell out, Amazon will set your listing to inactive anyway. So pretty much whether you close it manually or sell out, it doesn't really matter. However, there are some benefits from closing it yourself manually, and I'm going to get to those later on in this video. So should you close your listing? My first answer today is yes. I'll explain more further on in the video. So I've tried both methods. I've closed my listings manually. Bear in mind, I've been doing this for about a year now with 3 different products. So they've all been out of stock at some time, and I've tried both techniques, either letting Amazon make it inactive, or I've closed them manually. And I always monitor my ranks. I've shown you guys before that I monitor my ranks. Actually, I've got an example of one of my products. This is the one that's been out of stock. So this is my main keyword for this product. And I've tried closing manually and letting Amazon do it, and to be honest, there's been no real difference, in my opinion, between the drop-off each time. The biggest factor for the rank drop-off is how long you're out of stock. So just to go over this briefly, this goes all the way back to September last year. This was the first time I went out of stock after my first batch, which was really good at that time, because you know, I didn't know how quick my products were going to sell. So pretty much all of you will do this with your first product. It's very, very hard to know how well your first product's going to sell, and that first batch, predicting it is almost impossible. So it's almost inevitable you will go out of stock with your first product, so don't panic. It does happen, and it is fairly easy to relaunch, generally speaking. So you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4 times this product has been out of stock, and each time when I've relaunched, the ranks come back super quick, as you can see here, and as I've been selling kind of longer and longer, the higher ranks I've got progressively higher. So the last 2 times I've been in stock, I've been pretty much first, second and third the entire time that I've been in stock. So this shows, you know, I was out of stock for a week or so there. This one was more kind of a 3-4 week, then only a couple of weeks again, and then 3-4 weeks there. So the actual drop off is more dependent on time rather than the actual method you use to close your listing. This little stagger here is when I reactivated my listing a week or 2 ago, just to kind of deal with the hijacker, which I mentioned in one of my previous videos. So whichever method you choose doesn't really matter from a ranking perspective, but manually closing it does have some benefits. And as I just mentioned, your listing will automatically become inactive within Seller Central as soon as you sell out of stock. So when you know that you're going to be running out of stock, there are a few things to consider. Firstly, is how long do you expect to be out of stock? You know, if you're going to be out of stock 4, 5, 6 weeks, there's probably not a huge amount you can do to kind of limit the rank drop-offs that you're going to see from being out of stock for that duration of time. However, if you're only going to be out of stock for a week or 2, there are some changes that you can make which might limit the amount of ranking drops that you will see from being out of stock. So firstly, calculate how long you expect to be out of stock, and then put together your strategy based on that. Also, as probably this will be the first time you've been out of stock if you're watching this video, then calculate the overall lead time for your product. So you know how long that your product took to be manufactured last time. You'll have a good idea of what rate you're going to be selling at, so you can sit down now and go, okay, I need to order my next batch 6 weeks in advance. So it might be the case that you're ordering a new batch as soon as each batch gets delivered to Amazon. That's pretty much how it is for my products. Generally, I've got 2 to 3 months of stock of any one product at any time, and as soon as that batch is arriving, I'm already placing the order for the next batch. So at all times, I've kind of outlay for 2 batches of each product. So keep that in mind, and it will help reduce the risk of going out of stock next time. It's impossible to prevent going out of stock, because you never know how well your sales are going to do. But if you do go out of stock, remember, normally it's a good thing because you've sold faster than you expected to sell. Okay, other steps you can take. I would consider either turning off or reducing your PPC budget. And the thing with this point and a couple of the points coming up is it all comes down to balance. So you want to reduce your PPC purely because you want to slow down your sales a little bit. You don't want to slow them too much in the sense that it's going to destroy your ranks, but you can certainly slow them down a fraction that way, and also you'll be making more money because you're not spending on PPC. But if, for example, 90% of your sales, which is very unlikely, but if a large percentage of your sales are coming from PPC, you know, reducing it or turning it off may not be the right maneuver for your product, but if only a small percentage of your sales are coming from PPC, you could probably safely turn them off for the last week or two that you're running out of stock. You can also consider increasing your price, and I've seen some videos where people say don't do this because it slows down your sales. Yes, it can slow down your sale, but most of us don't actually know the ceiling price for our product. We've seen what other people are selling for in that category. We've launched our product about the same sort of price, or maybe a little bit above if we're offering more value, but we don't actually know what the ceiling price is. So sometimes when you're running out of stock, this is a great opportunity to find that ceiling price. So what I did with all of my products when they've kind of got out of stock the first time, when I know I have kind of 1 to 2 weeks of stock left, I start to increase it by £1. So I increase the price by £1, and then I give it 2 or 3 days to see if sales are good and also how the ranks are performing. And that's also one of the reasons to kind of use a rank tracker such as the one I use, because your sales may continue for a day or two, but if your ranks are starting to drop, this can be an early indication that your price might be too high. So just keep that in mind, that you want to track your sales, but also your ranks as well, to ensure you're not seeing a sharp drop off. You might see a small drop off, in which case I'd say that's fine, but if you see a sharp drop off in ranks, maybe consider not increasing your price too much further. So increase your price, do kind of £1 every 2 or 3 days, see what the results are like, and you might find that actually, do you know what, you can sell your product £2, £3, £4, £5 more per unit than you've currently been selling. You'd make more profit on the remainder of the current batch, and then going forward you'll make more profit on every single unit that you sell. So it's a great time to experiment with what your ceiling price is. So with regards to actually closing your listing, I would recommend closing your listing just before you run out of stock. It sounds crazy, why would you keep a couple in stock? Well, if you refer back to my video from last week, I had a hijacker when I was out of stock. However, because I had some units left, I was able to then reduce my price and win back the buy box. So even if there's a hijacker on your listing, people aren't buying their product because you can undercut them and usually win back that buy box. So by keeping a few units back in inventory, you've got that protection. If a hijacker does come in, you can kind of take over your listing, and that gives you a day or two to get rid of that hijacker, and hopefully you have enough inventory to get through that period of time. Also, if you manually close your listing, it won't automatically reactivate. The negative thing of that is when your inventory arrives from Amazon, you have to manually go in and reactivate the listing. But on the plus side, say for example you had completely sold out, quite often when you're out of stock, returns will come back. And Amazon, unfortunately, despite what we can set in our settings in Seller Central that we don't want returns to be resold, Amazon probably resell over 90% of returns that come back. So when that happens, if you have a return come in while you're out of stock, then that listing will be reactivated and you'll be selling returns. So potentially you can sometimes use being out of stock as a good way of getting rid of returns. If you're going to be out of stock for a few weeks, wait for all those returns to come back and then request a removal order with Amazon and get all those returns sent back to you to reduce the chance of those returns being sold and getting a negative review from a customer because there's something wrong with the return that had been sent back. Also, as I mentioned above, make sure you monitor your organic ranks, and this is important for 2 reasons. One is when you go out of stock, you know where you were. So when you come to relaunch your products, so I know at the moment I'm underperforming compared to when I went out of stock. So when I was in position 1 pretty much consistently, and now for this keyword, around 24.17. So I'm at the bottom of page 1 straight onto page 2. And that reflects in my sales the last day or two since I've been back in stock. So I know I'll be aggressive with PPC for a few days, and hopefully we'll get the same sort of results that we saw here and here, where the ranks come back a lot quicker than they do than when you kind of first launch a product, and it's a much longer period of time to get your product ranked. So it's very important to know your ranks from a relaunch perspective, but also, as when I was saying, experimenting with your price, you need to know your ranks so you can see whether your price increases are having too much of a detrimental effect on your ranks, or whether the small drop off in ranks is worth it for the additional profit going forward. So hopefully that's given you some fresh ideas on how to view a product that is going out of stock. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button, and if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel.